Thank you all for joining us. It's a lovely hot Wednesday here in Ohio, and we do appreciate everybody taking some time out of their day. Um, I can say this for out of all the product introductions, we introduced the Quiet Tile Light Hood. Um, Today is going to be the VersaTune Low Frequency. We are just truly excited. These are some of the more uh, potent products that we've been able to put out in the market for some time, probably ever since VersaTune or wood panel products. So not only are we excited to bring you a new panel product, we also feel that with this product, we've cracked a little bit of a code. We got a little bit of a game changer here that's going to grow into the VersaTune family, as we're going to call it, as we get more and more testing on some of the experiments that we'll be working on as mad scientists. Honestly, music rated is another way for us to approach this, and so we're going to talk about both concepts today, well, the product and the concept as we move forward here. But let's start off and try to define what is low frequency. And it can mean a lot of different things to different people. For those of you reps who work in also our home market, you may be familiar with the term subwoofer crossover. That's a range in a window where your bass speakers and your sub, they have an overlap. So that is considered to be a low frequency focus in that realm. It could also be just bass, the bass clef on a piano, which can frankly go down even further than this range, 60 to 300 hertz. Could it be wavelength based, all the way down to the 20 hertz frequency, which is pretty much the bottom end of human hearing? And the answer truly is, what is low frequency? It's really all of these. So that it's not a terribly defined window. We're certainly wanting to focus in this range, and I think a lot of people have seen that's where we're going. But what low frequency is not, it's not well represented in NRC as a standard. And so when we talk about NRC, when we speak to it as comparative to different panels, it becomes a very difficult number to use, and it's one that architects and designers are constantly focused on. So what we want to do is that 250 to 300 hertz range, which is that's not even represented completely there. Only the 250 hertz is represented in this average. NRC just doesn't function very well for the product we are introducing today. So base management with the VTLF, let's take a look at the entire range of frequency, and we'll look at our standard 1-inch thick panel, the standard fabric wrap. This could be hard side, it could be any of our competitors, the standard yellow. And it gets a zero 0.8 NRC, pretty standard stuff, and it's getting that average from the 250, 500, 1000, and 2000 hertz frequencies. As we said, VTLF, it's what it's not as much as it is what it is. So we're at a 0.35 NRC, which, on face value, an architect or designer might say, that panel doesn't do anything. Actually, it really does a lot. It does a lot of different things as opposed to that standard panel. And so where we're focusing this is in two areas. Keep in mind our base low frequency ranges, and this is kind of a representation of the graph that the new VTLF represents. Hopefully most of you have gotten this sample in the mail. If not, it's on its way, and it's got this same graph on the backside on the label there. This is kind of what we're considering that window to be, 300 and below, and even lower than that. Our performance range is way down there. In fact, I think I need to slide it over a little bit in this image. I think I messed it up. 63 to 100 hertz is really the window that we're concentrating in when we say low frequency. But then we're also looking at the high end. If we just put in too much hard side into one space, you veterans, you know that we're going to overabsorb in the highs, and we're not even going to touch the lows. It's zero. Well, at least we don't really have much data down there below 125 hertz. And we don't really think it's going to do much, if anything. But what we don't want to do with a new product like this, we want to try to kill off some of those highs. So our performance at 500 and above definitely drops that overabsorption that can happen out. So for spaces that already have some high level absorption, an auditorium with cloth seats, curtains, people wearing clothing. Those are really good high frequency absorbers. Adding that 1-inch thick high NRC panel would certainly overabsorb those highs. So VTLF, we just feel like it's a bit of a unicorn in the world of fabric wrap panels. But the big one here is that it's only 2 1/8 inch thick. If you wanted to get this performance or similar to, and not even as low as we are, the competition had 5-inch thick plus panels. We're going to talk a little bit more about that going forward, but this is why it's a unicorn right here. It's 2 1/8 inch thick, and we have that performance. So currently the website is up. There's no link to it from the main page on kineticsnoisecontrol.com, but if you go to kineticsnoisecontrol.com slash VTLF, I think that's kineticsnoise.com/VTLF. That'll take you right to this. So our major features as we're talking about this panel product. It's an 80 hertz, what we're calling bass trap style performance. It's really where its sweet spot is. Does well between 63 and 100, but 85% absorption at that 80 hertz concentrated. At only a 2 1/8 inch thick panel, which we think is a real achievement. Now, I will say this, we tested that at A mount. So we've given it the most conservative possible test. So if you're mounting it to a wall or ceiling, you are getting that true performance from the data that we tested. This also means that for people who are dealing with wood box bass traps, Helmholtz absorbers, there's no heavy wood substrates or anything else that have to be installed. This goes up as easily as the hard side, the VersaTunes, and the TADs of the world. It's that simple. What we're going to look at too moving forward as we talk about this music rated family of products. VersaTune, TAD are certainly going to have their day in the sun with this within this music rated zone that we're creating. And as many of you know, especially for the home market side of things, but also the commercial world, usually these things work as a family, work in concert with one another. So with this, it's only a 2 1/8 inch thick for the performance that we're talking about. So it's one thickness at this point. We will be testing other thicknesses moving forward, but currently we wanted to offer this one. It's nailed that sweet spot for us. All edge profiles will be available, and it's available up to 4x10. So the big question is, if you're not familiar, and that's why I've been poking at the home market. I'm sure they hear it all the time, but for those of you in the commercial world, is this needed? Is it a product that people have asked for? And I can say equivocally, yes. But let's take a look at what's been out there for a long time. You know, you've got these corner foam dealies. I'm not going to name any product names, but we are going to beat up on some people here. You know, corner mounted, almost diffuser traps. You've got the cylindrical bass traps that are out there in the world. And when we talk about, not only are these products not necessarily as good a performer as our VTLF, they take up more space. They're in the corner, so you're 12-inch, 10-inch, 11-inch deep there. You've also got products that can be a lot more expensive. Those cylinders on the right, those are roughly about $1,600 for the pair. So it's definitely something where a fabric wrap panel could take up less footprint, less space within the area that they're going, the application. But realistically, overall, let's say you wanted to just do yellow fiberglass again. You're going to be 13 inches deep. So less footprint. It's much easier to hang. It's much easier. It's much more palatable, and it actually performs. You know, there's some questionable performance too on even the products that we've looked at here, just because we don't know how they were tested. And if they're tested J mount or any of the other mounts that don't require specification of the square footage that can be added to the room, how they're hung, they can fudge a lot of weird data out there. We've tried to keep ourselves as honest as possible. So then we talk to, well, you know, in the commercial world, the consultants will have a lot to say about this. And so Dr. Long in his book talked about mid-range or low frequency reverb time, and the percentage of treatment that's required at the 1,000 hertz as we move down the frequency range there. He actually states that we need less by about only 30% though. So I mean, when he says that we need less as we move down the frequency scale there, that's sounds bad initially up front, but realistically, we still need 70% absorption at 63 hertz. So there is still plenty of room for products that would address these frequencies. Now, keep in mind here, he's also stating that that is for unreinforced music. So the moment that we get into music halls that may use amplification, guitars, microphones, all that good stuff, you can pretty much throw those numbers out the window. The less absorption is going to become standardized and go right back to the way it was. So you can forget all of that. And then lastly, he kind of states out here, due to weight and thickness of materials, this has been a very difficult thing to achieve. That's exactly why we feel like we have a unicorn. We have achieved it. 2 1/8 inch thick. We don't have a lot of weight. We don't have a lot of thickness, but we've got that performance on the low end. So for the the acoustical consultants, it's a great opportunity. We want to have long-term growth. We're going to drive this towards them. We know that we need their help in moving this product forward. They're really going to be the drivers for this spec. The architects, the ones that concentrate on NRC too often, may not initially enjoy this as much because they don't see that number as high enough. But it's definitely up to us as salespeople to convey that message as to why this product works so well in the marketplace. So if we look at our reverb calculator, for those of you who've used this maybe regularly or just periodically, the one trouble that we're going to have here is to even using this tool. You see that our bottom end is at 125 hertz. That's mostly because we don't have any consultant data on building products below that frequency. It's just not really been approached. So we will absolutely require some consultant involvement, especially in the beginning of this product, in making sure that we convey the performance to them, and they'll help drive this idea. We really want to change this idea overall. We want architects and designers to kind of understand that there is the need for the right product in the right application. So looking at some of the competitors, this is definitely something I always like to look at here. You've got your Gulterman and Sabos out there. They have what they call their low frequency panel. I would argue that it is not. That is a similar curve to what you can get from our TAD panel. So the definition again of low is, I guess, strictly because it stops really operating at 1,000 to 1,250 hertz. That's pretty high on the spectrum. So let's take a look at the acoustics. Our Canadian pals up north, a much better absorber at the low frequency, or at least frequency targeted. It certainly kills itself off nicely in the highs, which is what you want with one of these panels. 200 hertz being the top end there. That's not bad. Certainly better than the Gulterman panel there. The gold standard for a long time has been RPG's Modsorber. And with this curvature line, for those of you in the know, obviously, once you get above that 1.0 line, that's 100% absorption. So we can basically say they have 100% at 160 hertz. Just because they're above that line, it does not make that any better. It's just an anomaly in the testing. If we compare that to the VTLF, you can see how far down the frequency spectrum we've driven this. And that 80 hertz, it kind of stands alone, and we've got a good kill off at the end. So then again, we're defining what we've considered to be our wide bass zone there. In reality, for us, we're going to define it at 125 and below, because again, there's acoustical data that would allow us to understand maybe better why and where and how those panels need to go in, but or at least to get a proper reverb time. But below 125. This is where we're going to really drive this idea of the product being not only unique, but something that's certainly consultant driven. And once we get into a spec, we'll be able to stand alone on that one. So finally, music rated, I kind of touched on it a little bit. Music rated realistically is just going to be Kinetic's method to convey this education and state that these panels deserve the applications that are applied for the proper use. TAD, like I said, VersaTune, VTLF. It is our plan to certainly build upon this VersaTune family. We still want to play with all sorts of sizes, thicknesses, densities, whatever it may be, materials. This is also one that's going to be very difficult for our competitors to try to replicate. It took us about a year to a year and a half of experimentation just to get the production processes right, let alone thicknesses, materials, and we started with some previously tested products that we just needed to replicate, and it was from Kinetics Past when they were initially doing the VersaTune stuff. So we're very happy with this one. We hope you are too. So I'll say thank you all for joining us. As always with me, actually, I've now got Becca, who's part of our marketing group, but Jason Ehrlich's listening and on the line. He's paying attention to the chat here. If y'all have any questions, we'll just take a few minutes to see if anybody's got anything for that.
We don't have anything yet. I do want to reiterate how, for those of you who kind of regularly call on consultants, I really do think this is kind of going to be our best friend, because architects think high NRC equals good performance. And I think by simplifying it down to say, if you're doing a project with music, you got to stop thinking NRC, and you got to start thinking music rated panels, and then you can help bring those consultants on board to those projects. So they will thank you for that. It is what they should be doing anyway, and especially with these low frequencies and large wavelengths and all that fun stuff. But we will be putting together more acoustic presentations to help you guys tell that story. I definitely owe you an AIA newsletter here, because we have done some updates to our AIA presentation. But I do think more than we've ever done, at least the 20 years I've been here, I think now this story that we get to go to architects and consultants alike in the room acoustics market group has never been better and never been more excited. And I'm really stoked for this. I really am. So I'll shut up and wait for your questions now.
Well put. Well put. Well, like we said too, I just want to reiterate that any of you attending this and may have partners within your organization that maybe didn't get a chance to, we're certainly going to make the video of this available. Hopefully y'all receive your samples. We've given a little bit of a twist to it, and we just dressed it up with a different fabric, but it looks a lot better than the FR701. So hopefully it's a little bit more flashy. We're using that's still a Guilford fabric, I believe, called Marin. And I think we're going to start color coding the VersaTune family as it grows with different Marin fabrics and switch those out. So we just want to give it a new face, new look. And as you'll see it over time here, the web pages will start to have updates as we move forward here. Appreciate y'all joining us. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to Jason or I. We'll be happy to address them, talk through them, and good luck. I think this will be a great one for us. I can't wait to see those quotes come through. So take care, y'all, and enjoy the rest of your week.